Hello everyone, my name is MansaMusa and welcome back to my channel, and today we're back with another video in Advanced Wars by Web. And today we're not going to be covering any single turn of a game or a match at large. Today we're going to be covering everything Advanced Wars by Web. What is overrated in the scene and what is underrated. And you might be thinking to yourself, Mansa, that's a lot for one person to cover. And you would be right, but luckily today I am not alone. I am with some of my favorite creators in the Advanced Wars by Web space. The whole premise of the video, we're going to be covering everything underrated and overrated in the scene. And before we get into it, let's just go ahead and go into introductions for everyone. So we'll be doing your name, your role in the community, so whether you're making videos, map community, anything like that, and then your favorite hobby outside of Advanced Wars. So I'll go ahead and start. My name is MansaMusa. I make videos about Advanced Wars by Web, mostly replay analysis, but a few special videos here and there. And then my favorite activity outside of Advanced Wars is Ultimate Frisbee. I guess we'll go in my order, so we'll go with Advanced Warrior first.
Oh, me first? All right, then. How's it going, guys and gals? I am Advanced Warrior. I have been an Advanced Wars content creator since, I want to say 2020, 2021, so a few years now. It's kind of fallen off, but I'm hoping to bounce back. My name is the same on Advanced Wars by Web and Discord, and my hobby is outside of Advanced Wars. I completely did not think about this. I guess bike riding. You know, there's a nice bike trail near my area that I like to take.
Very cool. Next on my list is Deejus.
What's going on, everyone? Deejus here with another non-episode, but in someone else's episode. Let's see, I'm Advanced Wars. I create Advanced Wars videos. I make Advanced Wars content. I make a fool of myself. Let's see. Outside of that, that's a basic answer, but I like traveling, kind of obviously. Travel all around the world. And I also play Ultimate Frisbee, or I did, until my toe got imploded and turned purple. But I used to play Ultimate Frisbee. So that's good to know.
Like a turf toe or just random injury?
Turf toe, some dude jumped up and then his cleats came down on my toe and the toenail fell off and it was purple and it was very bad.
Oh.
And I could not run for 6 months.
That is brutal.
He was a big guy too.
The cleats make sense, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next up is, Humita.
Hello everyone, this is Humita. I make videos on YouTube, and I guess hobbies. I mean, who has time for more hobbies than Advanced freaking by Web, bro? It takes up so much time.
20 matches at once.
That was a hobby, honestly.
That is my main hobby pretty much. But I used to make music, and I also play Age of Empires 2 pretty regularly.
Very nice.
Drop your Spotify.
Yeah, drop the SoundCloud. And then finally, Sulfurent.
Hi, I'm Sulfurent, last and definitely least here. I'm a pretty infamous map maker. If you've ever played a Sulfurent map, you'll probably look at it in sheer confusion. That is understandable. As for hobbies, I've been really playing around with electronics recently, like Raspberry Pis, hooking things up to breadboards. It's a lot of fun.
Very cool. Yeah, I took an AP computer science class, I think in high school, and we did some Raspberry Pi stuff, and I just understood none of it. It all feels like craziness to me.
It's a lot of reading tutorials.
Yeah, just trialing and erroring your way through it. Very great. Now that everyone's introduced themselves, we'll just hop right into it. I guess talk quickly about the structure of it. So before we introduce every topic, we're going to vote on whether we think it's over or underrated. So we'll do, for people with cameras, we'll do O for overrated, U for underrated. And then if you're unsure, just kind of give me a in the middle for each of the topics. And then after that, we'll kind of go into more just general discussion, some examples, maybe some games you've played, just anything really about that. So yeah, that sound good for everyone? We ready? Yeah.
Sounds
I
good.
was so gonna express himself.
I was
through
thinking,
emotes. So this will be overrated, and this will be underrated.
That makes sense.
Very nice. Yeah. Okay, our first topic for the day, the highly contested Kindle. So yeah, all formats. What are you thinking about Kindle overall? So we'll do votes. So 3, 2, 1.
What?
Interesting.
Oh man. Odd one out.
Okay, so is that 2 underrateds and 2 overrateds and 1 in the middle? Did I get that right?
Damn.
I think so.
Yeah,
We're split up a little bit.
because it depends the mode, and
Oh, yeah.
ever since the re-tiering, it's like, okay, now if she's tier 2, it's like she's not very overrated.
Well, not
Or-
just re-tiering, but also remember that she technically got a buff, but they just like fixed her dual strike stats. I almost said Days of Ruin.
Yeah.
Play that game too much.
I
She
think
was
it's definitely
overrated
an
or
ELO
underrated
thing.
before, but you know, now with tier 2, like she's usually the worst. Like if you can pick Max in Live League, you're picking him over Kindle, and if it's not Live League, then you know, you're picking Olaf or something.
Yeah, Kindle is definitely skill issue the CO, but like if you look at anybody under 1K, but like the people still park on cities. People like build expensive units right before the urban blight hits. Oh man, it's a lot of fun to play, but like I don't know. As a low ELO person who clicks the Eagle Super at the start of his turn,
Yeah.
I mean it's easy to forget.
Oh
Yeah.
man, you reminded me of when I would buy stuff and then use my Sasha power.
I still do that
That still happens to most of us.
Yeah.
And then,
I think Kindle is an interesting case because they did buff her high society, right? Because it made it so like the
Yes.
labs and other units count for that now. And
All properties.
All properties. And I
I
was
think so. Yeah.
Yep.
And I was thinking about it, and I was like, yes, being in tier 2 is much harder for her now, but it's an interesting dynamic, I think, because I feel like most times when you're playing against a Kindle, you're playing against the urban blight. Like you're keeping your units off cities.
Yeah.
You're trying not to, you're trying to play an anti for that. But now that high society is better, I think it's a legitimate threat, and I think they play very nicely off each other because with high society, like playing against the urban blight, you're going to put your units on low defense terrain in general because you're not going to be placing it on cities, and then a high society can come in with that high firepower, get a bunch of wall breaks because you're not on good defensive terrain, and really overwhelm a position. So like I think there's very interesting kind of like bluff plays that you can do with Kindle in that way. But I think where she really falls down is that she just has to be like hyper aggressive. Like if it gets to stall state late game, she's just not going to be good, especially against pretty much anyone else in that tier except maybe Max, who's also pretty aggressive. But yeah, I mean, Max probably still has the edge there. But I think with high society being very usable now, it makes Kindle more strategic than she was in the past, which I appreciate. But also I think a good chunk better than actually she was before.
My counter argument is when her high society is good is in high income maps where Olaf and other CEOs shine more. So she wants to be in aggressive low income maps in the first place where her high society is not very good at all. So I find like maybe very small situations, like there's one stalling rod game that Elagatua like showcased where she got a bunch of one hit KOs because she had like 28,000 income, but like who's not picking like, I don't know, Von Bolt or Olaf in that situation in new tier 2?
Yeah.
I just don't. I think she's still an urban blight. I've never used her high society or urban, whatever the heck. I don't even know what it's called. High society.
Yeah, high society.
In
You were
like
right
a serious,
For a second
in a
time.
serious match, I've never used it. Like if I'm winning, I'll use it like badly. But if I'm trying to win, I just never found the need to use it.
Yeah. I could be talking a little bit through rose-tinted glasses too, because I think I just finished a game where I basically won off high society because I bluffed Urban Blight. But I think it was also because my opponent was playing, I believe, Max. So it wasn't like it wasn't a stall scenario where they were playing Olaf and I had to get super aggressive and they could punish me, or just like global damage slowly chipping me down. But yeah,
high income mixed base. I feel like high income mixed base is where she'd be the best.
Yeah, it was
higher income. And there's a lot of aggression going on, and Olaf is not as good, Eagle's not as good. I think that's where I would probably use High Society Kindle.
Yeah, it was definitely high funds, and I think it was mixed base as well. So yeah, it was like the perfect case for her.
All right,
Yeah, definitely.
the controversial. Oh, sorry.
No, sorry. I was just gonna say a little bit. Like it definitely feels like that. Like a closer matchup in tier 2 standard. I think she's still tier 3 in Fog. I don't know if we're going to get there, but in tier 2 standard, I feel like the matchup she'll struggle more against would be like Eagle and Olaf with Max. Obviously, both of them are wanting to be more aggressive. I can't really think of too many advantages that Kindle has over Max other than cities and maybe artillery if it ever gets to that point. But yeah, I still feel like that. Like in tier 2, Kindle is kind of like on the I want to say lower end, but maybe like more aggressive, and then like the others, Eagle, Olaf, feel like they're the ones that can stall out more. So like if I had to split tier 2 into stall and aggro, I would put Kindle and Max together, and then Olaf and Eagle together for like the more stalled games.
Yeah.
I kind of like Kindle in maps where cities are kind of close together. You know, there's a lot of like, especially fog maps that cities are like 4 tiles away or 5 tiles away. That is a little bit trickier because then if there's only like a few contested properties, you know, it's harder for her. It's all about those urban tiles. But like when the contested front has a lot of cities, then you have like one diagonal to the other, and then the 3 tiles, and like a lot of kind of packed together. That's where her day-to-day and the power and the super really pop, because it's just you can't. I mean, you can attack into her in general, but if there's so many cities, like you get into a brawl, and you're gonna be on the losing end of that brawl, even if you're like Olaf or Eagle or, you know, maybe Max. It kind of depends, but definitely very tricky, and you have to be much more calculative. You have less margin of error, I feel like, than maybe like Max, because you have extra movement. But for the counterpoint of high society, the slander against high society, it's all about like the threat of, you know, like there's definitely like the late game thing that you were saying that she doesn't have. She does have with the high society, because in late game, I feel like one of the main things is that a lot of COs can't break through. Like, for example, Adder is not good in late game, right? If you get into a wall state, his +1 is like, okay, whatever, like you're not gonna break through. You only have 1 tile to break through. That's when you have to start pumping out like anti-airs to kill infantry or neo tanks to break through tanks, that kind of type of unit. But with COs like, for example, Max, that can use Max Blast, and like he can break through, you know, do 1k KOs, she can do the same thing. Yeah. So that opens up a lot of tactical opportunities and can maybe push you back and gain territory, that kind of thing. But it's just the threat of, like, she doesn't have to use it. It's the threat of that then you have to go back, and then she can use Urban Blight instead. So it's like, it's all about like the threat stuff that you were also talking about, and then kind of manipulating the board and taking control of different areas and try to squeeze little wins like that throughout the map, I feel like. But definitely very hard in tier 2. Yeah. Way easier in tier 3 back in the day.
Yeah, and I appreciate
like last year.
I appreciate that she's in tier 2 now, because it wasn't fun when she was in tier 3 and just like over, like, by far the best CO on pretty much every map. Like, I think on Global League maps she had like a win rate of like 60 plus on like pretty much every map in tier 3, and it was just like, I don't know. I mean, I was picking Kindle. I think Kindle is still my most picked CO because I was like, I'm going to use it if it's overpowered in there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Low ELO was miserable.
Yeah.
I do want to give a Soul a chance to speak, but wasn't there like just a lot of people picking Kindle just because they like heard somewhere that she was good in that tier, something like that?
Hive mind is real. Yeah. If you look at the analysis, like people look at that before games and they just pick what's the most commonly picked or highest, you know, win percentage CS. So it's kind of a snowball effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and also Kindle's just really easy to use. Just like, I see the COP, I use the COP. Like, yeah. Oh, I park on cities, which a lot of COs want to do anyway. It's a very unga bunga brain CO, like, or at least pre high society buff. Now it's kind of a will she won't she CO, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah, I think aggressive COs in general tend to be, at least in my opinion, easier to play. At least for my style. Like, I am very aggressive in general when I play. I do not like stall state games at all. I think I've picked like Eagle maybe like twice ever, just because I just don't like playing that style. And I think Kindle is probably one of the easiest, if not the easiest, to be super aggressive with, because you're like never punished. Like when you get pushed back, you can just pop the Urban Blight and you're still doing global damage and you're still in a good spot. It's really like the disaster is going into, in my opinion, late game. Like, yes, high society is better now and can provide value in late game, but I don't know. I'm trying to win within 10-15 days in most of my Kindle games.
You did pick Eagle twice. I just want to check.
Oh, fact checker over here.
Also, Kindle is pretty forgiving, right? Like you can brawl it out, and it can get messy and stuff. But like all of a sudden it's like, oh no, like I left a city unprotected. It's like, it's fine, just use Urban Blight. Like you get an extra turn to delay.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, she's pretty forgiving in those like lower and mid elo levels where there isn't a lot of planning. It's kind of like you just kind of throw things and you start brawling. She gives you that extra firepower on a day-to-day, plus crazy stats on power. Just like it's, you know, it's like a global damage is pretty forgiving as well because, oh, you're brawling whatever, boom, you hit them with that. She's kind of similar on that sense, I feel like, but just with crazy stats kind of all around the map.
Yeah. I think, natural transition here from one of the most aggressive COs to one of the more stallier ones in Tier 3 with Drake. I was very curious your guys' opinion on Drake, especially after his recent nerf. Yeah, so 3, 2, 1, overrated for me. Underrated for...
I'm trying to do the underrate.
Underrated? Okay, so...
What is that, Deejus?
I just forgot what it was.
Just a U.
Lowercase U.
A lowercase U also works, yeah.
Am I doing like Crips or Bloods or something? I don't even know.
Oh, no. So that was 2 underrated and 3 overrated. So yeah, another interesting split here. I'll kind of kick it off for the overrated cred. I think the main reason that I do not like playing Drake is because his battlecopters are just so bad now. I think, so not on every map, so obviously not on every map there's even airports, and in some maps you have airports and they're not even that good. But on maps with even like decently okay airports, I think battlecopters are probably the second best unit in the entire game. Just because, yes, they're in that triangle formation, but because they can ignore terrain, because they're flying and, you know, forests don't affect them, they can go over mountains, they can go over rivers. I think they're very, very important, and often, even where I'm playing, which is like 1300 elo, high 12, low 1300 elo, whoever builds the most battlecopters is winning like, 60-70% of their game and can keep them alive and, like not throwing them away. So I think battlecopters are just a very, very important unit, and to have minus 30%, I think, on all of his,
I think so.
on all of his air units is just so bad, even with the global damage that you can do.
Yeah. I also said overrated, but I think mostly because a while back, maybe pre-nerf, and maybe even after the nerf a little bit, there was a lot of like the consensus on the Discord was always like, oh, Drake insta-pick tier 3 fog. It's just Drake is so powerful, global damage. And I think it's more about the maps. It depends more how the map plays out that may determine that or not. But yeah, after the nerf, it's not only the air units. I was also thinking the naval units got their defense lowered to, I think, normal. So they lost their extra defense, which is pretty significant.
I think it's plus 10%. I think it's down from... I think it went from 25 to plus 25.
It was 25, I think, before.
Yeah, now it's at 10.
Down to 10.
Yeah.
So, and that's pretty significant in high funds mostly because his naval was like, if a map had a little bit of naval, then he was like solid. But now that's gone, and like in fog, hey Elagatua, like in fog you might want to use black boats in certain moments as blockers, but now his black boats are like normal, like he lost that chance of big big blockers that can withstand RD shots and copter shots and stuff. So I don't know, he's definitely fallen off the ladder, I think, in the power in general. And he's no longer that like, oh, insta pick Drake everywhere. It's like not so much. So that's why I say overrated.
I have a very simple reason for my overrated pick for Drake, because whenever I play a Stalcio, I always tend to want to build a lot of units because like this is very low ELO brain. But whenever I wall, I have 2 types of units. I got the trash that I put in the front of my units. And I got the pearls, which I want to protect, like my anti-air, my copters, etc. Yeah, and with Drake, and with like stall COs, it seems like you need a lot of just a lot of units to like throw in front of your other units. Like you need a lot of trash to protect things. So and like with the Drake, because you don't want to build battlecopters and so on as much, like you don't have as many units to work with. For your trash and your pearls.
Lower unit count for sure.
I think it depends on the game mode. I tend to think Drake is underrated because people think he's shit and he's not that bad. I find that if going a full land army is not as bad as people think, sure, you have lower unit count, but I can tech up much earlier on. It usually catches people off guard seeing an early or medium tank or Dio tank in fog. Heck, even in standard play. Sometimes I still build like one Drake copter, maybe zero, depending on how it is. But also like the hubris from some of these Andy players, they think, oh, I counter Drake. That's not the case at all. They think they can pop a CO power, and then I drop my super, and then they CO power again. That doesn't work all the time. Sometimes they don't even get up to the CO power. They lose all their units. What are they healing after that? The fuel is an issue as well.
The rain.
The reinforcement, if there's literally anything other than roads and cities, it's going to be kind of like Winter Fury. You're not going to be able to strike my units back. So I think people write them off just because they like to simplify everything in Advanced Wars. Simpler is easier to process for the minds. Like, oh, he counters that. Oh, Drake beats Kindle in long run. Like, it's not that simple. It depends on the map and everything. But I tend to think that he's not as good as he used to be, obviously. I still find him good in some transport scenarios where the black boat moves an extra space. Maybe that allows an infantry to move somewhere else on some of these pre-deploy maps like Stitch Monster or whatever. Can't name them off the top of my head. But I think he's not great. You know, usually I pick Andy these days over Drake if I'm thinking stallier than Kindle and Fog. But I think he still has a lot of merit to him. So I'd say he's underrated.
Is this an okay time to introduce Elagatua?
Yeah, now would be a great time to introduce Elagatua. So the intro we did Elagatua was just your name, any role that you have in the community, so what you like doing, and then your favorite hobby outside of Advanced Wars.
Well,
that last one always.
My government name is Chris, but I'm Elagatua. What am I known for? I'm known for really, really long videos. And
really good ones.
I'd say
really
very focused on educational content. So I want to make videos for people that want to improve but don't know how to improve and are willing to spend time thinking about how to get better at the game. And if you're looking for my videos for entertainment, I think you might not find them very entertaining. But if you have like a certain ELO goal, especially in Fog in mind, and you're willing to like try and study, then I think my content is going to be very helpful, and I think it's helped a lot of people. Outside of Advanced Wars, I do a lot of gaming in general. I do a lot of music in general. I like going to concerts and things like that. I guess I can give a plug to my company maybe, because one of the reasons why I've been so inactive lately is because I've been working really hard with my company on a new product, which just got announced like a week and a half ago. So I'll show it off on screen. It's the old Backbone Pro. So I work on their app. So if that's something that you've heard of, then that's something that I spend a lot of time putting a lot of effort and love into. So free advertising for them, I guess. But
Elagatua, please talk to me after the recording, please, because you have no idea how much I play games on my phone.
Yeah, so that's what my IRL job is, doing stuff for them.
This video
controllers
includes
littered
promotion.
all about this desk. Screen.
Everybody
Like
DMing Elagatua for tech support in their Backbone Pro now.
Yeah.
Definitely don't do that. But we're definitely going to be making a lot of improvements as it launches. But it was announced like a week and a half ago. But I've been working on it for like months, so like that's why everything's been so busy, or at least one of the reasons why.
Gotcha. Yeah, very cool. Deejus, I think your audio is fixed, at least from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I think I was just running a VPN through Zimbabwe or something. I think it's fixed now.
Zimbabwe of all places.
Inflation caught up with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess back to Drake.
Back to Drake. I said underrated. I kind of want to bounce off of what Humita said about maps, because absolutely. I feel like when I'm picking a CO, kind of goes down to two things. One, how do I feel like playing? And two, does the map support what I want to do? I would say that Drake is one of the COs that like does want to stall. Like in tier 2, we mentioned, like I'd say like Olaf and Eagle are those kinds. Drake is definitely one of those. The other ones just kind of feel like they're like in the middle. Maybe Lash is very aggressive, but I still think that like Dee just said, like the superpower is still pretty good. Like global damage is global damage alongside with the rain, and exactly like Andes can't just heal up all the damage, because like a person playing Drake isn't just gonna use their power and just sit there. Like it's just yeah, it's like it's an advantage that you want to take advantage of course. And the argument with like the battle copters, yeah, the 70% does suck. And I would say that definitely building a battle copter helps out because it would force your opponent to build an anti-air if they can't feel like they afford a copter. But I still feel like that it just like comes down to like the map and the play style. Like if you know how to play a game of attrition and take advantage of that global damage, then Drake definitely is a still viable CO in my opinion.
One of my favorite things, just a little off topic, is just playing a game in fog and just not building battlecopters for the first 15 turns and just watching them waste their anti-air and getting impatient. So I did like doing that as Drake. There's like, oh, there's anti-air's waiting there for forever. And like, all right, he's never going to build one. They suicided and then I build a battlecopter. Then they spend 16K for, it's not a great battlecopter, but you spent 9K and it forces out another anti-air. So I kind of just enjoy that in general.
Yeah. Do you guys think Drake's best mode is fog?
Probably. I mean,
Map
it
dependent.
depends on the map, honestly. I mean, like it's a cop out answer, but
Yeah.
I usually find myself picking him there because then Kindle's allowed in fog, so you see a lot more Kindles, and I like being on the Drake side of a Kindle Drake matchup. Elagatua
disagreements, yeah.
You didn't look like
Yeah.
you liked your so like before we do that, like Elagatua, you say overrated or underrated for Drake?
So I'll preface this by saying that my opinions only apply to fog. I don't think or play about anything else. There's really two situations that you have to think about Drake. One is Kindle allowed, and two, not. And that's becoming more common in Tier 3 now, where there are some maps that are just too good in Tier 3 to allow Kindle. If Kindle's allowed, then I would almost never pick Drake. It's unthinkable, almost. Because if there's a lot of properties on the map, then Kindle's superpower is going to be insane. If there's not a lot of properties in the map, then usually the day-to-day of Kindle is going to be insane compared to Drake. So I think it's just really hard to find a situation where Drake is going to be better than Kindle if Kindle's allowed. That being said, I think everybody mostly agrees with that. So I still think that Drake overall is underrated because Drake is still playable. It's just not as good as Kindle usually. Now, I still think that Drake is underrated if Kindle's gone, though, because when Kindle's gone, usually you're left with like this 3 CO triangle where you have Drake, Andy, and Lash that are going to be your viable COs. And a lot of people have been on the Andy train lately.
Yeah.
And when Andy is very popular, it actually improves Lash a lot. I think Lash has a very good matchup against Andy. The day-to-day abilities give Lash a lot of thresholds that makes it very strong for her. But Drake's really good against Lash. Drake is almost comically good against Lash because the global damage really neutralizes a lot of the powers and the defense, the terrain advantages that the Lash is going to have. And frankly, Drake is fine against Andy as well for all the reasons that you guys have talked about before.
Yeah.
So I think that as soon as Kindle goes away, Drake probably ought to be the default pick in a lot of situations. And instead, I think we've kind of landed on this triangle, which maybe people should be respecting Drake a little bit more than they are in that triangle.
Do you guys find that, like, so there's that triangle, there's the Lash Andy Drake triangle, and then there's also the tier 1 like standard triangle of like Sasha, Von Bolt, Hawk. Do you think one is more of a true like triangle, one counters the other than the other? Because in standard, I'm finding like Von Bolt is just pretty strong overall. Like even when I get in a Von Bolt Hawk matchup, I'm not upset most of the time.
Map dependent,
yeah.
I don't see triangle in tier 1 anymore.
I see it with Hawk and Sasha. It's just it's an annoyance, Hawk and Sasha. But like,
just be patient.
That, I don't really see a triangle. It's just annoying. But another thing that I'll build on Elagatua.
Yeah.
I would agree that Kindle. I don't really fear Kindle too much in the fog tier 3 for a couple reasons. Sure, she's good in low income, and sure, she's great in high income, but I find that the map pool is often in the middle, like 19 to 22k, where she's kind of like, she's could be good, she could be, so thankfully, because if it was like 16k, like let's mock Tyrael whatever map, like she's broken. Stalling Rod, yeah, her high society is broken. But most of the time I find it's in like the 19 to 22k, and then that situation I do like facing Drake versus Kindle. Because I don't think she can really wall break with like 21k, 20k. I don't think she's one-shotting units. Maybe if there's 2 comm towers. I don't have the calcs or anything, but I don't know. I just like playing defensive. It's also like a stylistic preference. I find myself playing, historically Olaf, Eagle, Hawk, Drake, just because I like the opponent bringing the fight to me. They have to play better than me. If they don't play better than me, they're losing. Rather than I have to play actively better than you the entirety of the game, Makes things easier that way.
Can I just say, have we all forgotten about Rachel?
Well, I realized he said. I realized we're talking about like specific triangle. I realized that, so I retract my statement about Rachel. I don't know where she would be in the triangle, honestly. Like dead center, maybe not. Map dependent.
Missing unless it's base light.
Yeah.
Yes, there we go. Exactly. That's. Yeah. So he didn't forget about Rachel. He specifically stated triangle, and I'm like, oh, we're in the wrong here.
Yeah, Rachel can be considered in base light. I would almost never consider Rachel if it's 3 bases.
Yeah,
I agree. I'm with
in
you
fog.
there. In fog, just really.
Well, that actually
and
leads
Andy
us.
really does counter. Like Andy counters Drake, but really, like Andy completely counters Rachel because those missiles. You have no idea. Maybe your opponent blundered and they didn't have a magnet, or maybe they did. You don't know when to even use it. Like it's just.
Yeah.
It's not
maybe
fun.
they forgot the Rachel change with the missile.
Yeah.
My girl Sonya once again being left to the dust.
Well, she should be moving here forward from that.
Sonya's so sad.
Is she in this conversation? Like,
she's really good at mixed based fog. That is a hill I'll die on. But we don't really have any mixed based fog maps.
We don't talk about mixed base.
We
had a tournament.
I think I saw something that was like Sonya on last Vigil on Tier 4 Standard is like not bad.
For the infantry fights in the middle, yes.
Yeah.
But if you're facing Grim, then she gets walloped. Because I had a Sonya versus Grim, and Grim like destroyed me. Just because the whole shtick is that you don't have the comm towers early. You get the 2 properties that are on the sides. They can't attack because the counterattack's super strong. You win the capture war. You have 2 properties, they don't. So you went off that 2k advantage, which might turn into 4k.
Yeah.
But other than that, not so great.
Yeah, it was just interesting to see because like I see Sonya so less now, especially I think as elo goes up, you see her less and less just because people know how to respond to it well. But yeah, it was interesting to see her in Tier 4 Standard, specifically on that map. It does lead to a good transition, though, talking about Rachel, because the next topic on the list here is going to be Rachel's CO power, Lucky Lass. So in case anyone forgot it, it's changes luck to 0 to 40% from the standard, 0 to 10, right? That's everyone's standard day to day.
0 to 9? Yes.
0 to 9. It might be 9.
0 to 9 and then 39%.
Yeah, 39 for Lucky Lass. So yeah, we'll give some people some time. I won't rush you like last time. But yeah, take some time and then.
I have my answer.
It's an easy answer.
Yeah. I have a reason.
Wow.
U for Elagatua, U for underrated, O for overrated.
Yeah, U for underrated.
I don't even know how the people think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, do the masses think a certain way? Like when what's my baseline?
I see it pads very rarely. I almost never see it.
I see consensus.
I feel like the baseline is like a lot of people do not use it. Like the only person I see like use it religiously is Inkagark.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I've only seen like super high level plays with it, like high elo players using it, and in all my matches when I'm facing Rachel's, I never see Lucky Lass popped.
All right, I'm ready to vote.
Yeah.
I have my answer.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Interesting. Okay, so that's
I
would go like this, like it's
you, Jordan. Okay, so we
No, that's what you do when a covering fire is happening. You just
so
But talking specifically about Lucky Lass, nothing else.
yeah.
It's Lucky Lass. Yeah.
I think I missed Sulfurant. Were you overrated or underrated, Sulfurant?
I'm underrated.
You're underrated. Okay, so it's everyone against Humita.
Wow.
Wow.
Give us your diatribe.
12 Angry Men. Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay, I go.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's
Yeah.
definitely overrated in my opinion. One, because I don't like luck as a mechanic. It's like a gamble. So you're just gambling to see what happens. It's hard to calc as a player and as the opponent as well. And I don't know, the last time I saw it, it was by Go7 in this America Cup match where he used it like, but again, it's just luck. Like maybe he gets a roll or not. I think there's a lot of hype about it, but I think it's just better to just wait for the covering fire or just have both, like have the tools of both and have the threat. And then maybe you can use Lucky Last if like they left too many infantry to bait the missiles, and then you just hit them with a Lucky Last. I know on average it should be like, instead of 0 to 9, it's 0 to 39, and on average it's like a 20% increase.
Yeah.
It's not that much, it's like it's a little bit. I don't know. I think it's overrated. I don't really like to use the Lucky Last that much.
Is that are we allowed to use that argument? Like it's under or overrated because I don't like it?
I
You want?
yeah, if you want. Yeah. It's your personal opinion.
Covering
Yeah.
fire is like the thing of Rachel. Like
Yeah.
if you're just going for a Lucky Last, it's like okay, whatever, like do whatever you want. But the biggest threat is the covering fire, where you have to like be very careful of the attacks you get into, how you position your units. It makes the board so awkward when covering fire is on the table. And if you look at like high funds where charge goes like this, like day 8 or something, you're already threatening covering fire. It's like, why would you ever use Lucky Last? Just hold that covering fire. You can't even hold it, right? Like, just watch them be all awkward and then not even drop the missiles. Just like wait a turn, or I don't know, or just drop it and then use it the next turn again because it's high funds. You just get so much charge all the time.
Yeah, I'll kick off a little bit here. So I think the similar reason why I like Lucky Last is the same reason why I kind of like High Society for Kindle, which is that it's a really good mix-up option and it allows for pretty powerful wall breaks. And the fact that you can get it pretty cheap at only 3 stars, I think is very strong. I think in general, luck is not something that you should be going for 100% of the time, but I do think it's incredibly strong. And I think it's especially strong because people forget chip damage. I know, like, unless you're like sweating out like the biggest match of your entire life, you're probably not tracking every single infantry and tank every time they take 5 damage on a roll and it doesn't show up. So a lot of the times people have this chip damage on their units, and it makes these luck rolls something that is, not guaranteed to. Oftentimes they are guaranteed wall breaks when you counter in all of the chip damage on a certain unit. So yeah, I think it allows for a good wall breaking opportunity. And like you said, when people are just baiting out the covering fire and are playing defensive and are, putting their units in bad positions overall because they're just trying to, counter you, I think it can be a really strong option. And yeah, I also think it's a really strong defensive option for, like, let's say there's a very important city that you need to interrupt for like a day limit match in a tournament. I think it can be very strong in situations like that as well.
All right, I'll just jump in here. I think that the baseline is incredibly low. No one ever uses Lucky Last. Anecdotally, I'm not as good as Inkagark. We've played one game and I beat him because he used Lucky Last against me and I was Drake. So you can beat a better player if they use Lucky Last poorly. If I were to use it, here's what I would do. I'm facing Andy. I use Lucky Last. They're going to use their superpower. I will reach the covering fire the next go around, probably a turn or two, and they won't be able to heal. So that would be a great time to use Lucky Last. Otherwise, using it versus Drake, that's idiotic. Using it versus Lash, probably not a good idea either. You don't want to brawl with Kindle, like, come on. So I would say the one time I would use it is versus Andy, and then it's definitely underrated because it's actually quite a good tool. I've used it effectively in that situation. But otherwise, like I said, I've probably seen Lucky Last. If I'm not counting like noobs that are below like 800, like I reviewed a game where this guy only used Lucky Last, like, in the higher levels, I don't think I've seen Lucky Last in like probably twice in the past 3 years, maybe. Like very, very rarely.
Yeah.
So that I'd say underrated just for that one purpose. Very situational, but mostly versus Andy, I could see it being very effective.
Yeah, let me go next because I co-sign almost everything that Deejus just said. The reason that luck is strong is because you have a lot of infantry. The problem is that when Rachel is good, it's on base light.
Yeah.
And base light, generally, you're not going to have a lot of infantry. So Lucky Lass has very, very little synergy for Rachel in the situations when she's actually going to be played. That being said, I think that the opinion of Lucky Lass is so low already that it's hard to overrate something that people generally consider to be useless. And I do think there is an argument if you have the misfortune of going for Rachel against Andy, where you basically save up your full bar, and then you're kind of forcing Andy to try and to play around the covering fire to some extent that Andy has to, and then getting the Lucky Lass, and then you're going to get back up to that covering fire again much more quickly before Andy hopefully has superpower saved up. So I guess there is some theoretical argument that you could use it unironically, but generally I think the only time that you'd otherwise use it is if you are losing and you just need to like Hail Mary some good luck rolls or you're dead. So that's about it.
Which can be viable too. Like it's not, if you're in a bad position and you're like, with a lot of CEOs, when you're in a bad position and you're like, this is pretty much unwinnable, having a situation where it's like, maybe I get 40% on every single roll and I get something crucial, like it can be an out.
Better than useless.
Better than useless.
Yeah. At lower ELOs, it's definitely very, very underrated because, like, to be honest, like, but below a certain threshold, it's an improv comedy show. so luck is very, very powerful when you're stuck in an improv comedy show, like where it's like I just throw my units, like infantry versus tanks, like just going nuts, and so it's like even if like your opponent attempts to bait or something, it's like they probably like had to like shift around a ton of units to get that bait, and so it's like it's just fantastic for wacky improv comedy.
Yeah.
I don't have too much to add other than if I've learned anything from Hearthstone, never rely on luck. You will regret it. But I think it just simply comes down to that it just gives Rachel an option. Like there are situations where you're like, they're set up for covering fire, or I don't know that they're set up for a covering fire in fog. It definitely could catch some people off surprise, and it doesn't do too well. It's obviously not a SCOP. It's a COP for a reason. It's not going to do anything massive unless we're talking about Kindle, but it's not going to do anything massive like a SCOP. So it's definitely just like a small, like lower resource option to use, and by chance it could possibly catch someone by surprise, like even if it like enables some kind of 2-hit KO, which I know I hear a lot about, like 20% get 2-hit KO, stand on the city, probably low elo mindset, but I like it because I think it just gives more options. But there are definitely times where higher level players would know that, all right, covering fire is my best option, and it's just going to get me so much more than what I would attempt with a Lucky Lass.
Yeah. I guess an interesting topic is like, would you guys, if you were in a situation where you felt like you needed a power surge, would you rather be popping a Lucky Lass or a double time as Sammy?
Map dependent.
Map dependent, yeah. Map dependent, unit dependent.
Double time for sure.
Really? Double time?
I do like double time in general, though, more. I find that might be an underrated power for sure. Especially look at mixed base in the Mariner Cup finals. Like, double time can save your ass a lot of times. Last Vigil, overpowered. I have a game right now with Sammy. I'm about to destroy my opponent after this ends with a double time. So, like, double time is great. If there's something that's underrated, I don't know if we're going to be talking about it, but that's an underrated power right there.
Yeah. Also, I do just want to briefly mention Jake's beatdown as well as a cop.
Yeah.
Like you guys think that's you guys use that, or you find situations for that?
I'm not a Jake. I'm not a Jake.
I haven't used Jake in years, to be perfectly honest. I kind of outgrew him. I used to love him, but
I still love him.
I think beatdown is a letdown.
Yeah. I lost my first 2 matches as Jake in like a 900 elo, and I was like, we're at her from here on out.
Adder's just so much more. Yeah, I mean, map dependent. It also depends what game mode. Standard, like I find that Adder's just better in the majority of time. And then Jess has had a resurgence as well.
Yeah.
Like Adder's the low income, and then you go Jess high income. Where's the sweet spot for Jake? It's kind of difficult. There's a few maps like Elagatua, that map you reviewed, Party Animals or something like that, Party After Hours. Like, sure, there's a lot of planes. He could have some viability. But these days, it's looking like Adder and Jess, specifically in Fog. Standard, I play a lot of Live League, and Adder's just always the gold standard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know Izanagi likes to use him as a discount grit.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes for him, yeah.
He's a not give up people.
Well, it's interesting. There was a game you casted yesterday in your stream, Humita, the Tesla versus Grim game, where Adder using artillery can be very strong too. That one's a little dependent on the Grim matchup, but I think Adder's artillery are actually like not that much worse than Jake's overall, just because you can position them like much faster than with some other CS.
Yeah, I mean,
They're not bad.
He
They're the same.
he
Yeah.
doesn't
they're
get
the
any
same.
bonuses from his powers or anything, right?
Yeah, it's no bonuses.
It's just positioning.
It's positioning. Yeah, it's just timing.
I think it's mostly the infantry fights with the +1 of Adder are just deadly. It's just so cheap. Like,
Yeah.
you hit 2 tanks, boom, you have sidestep. It's crazy. And there's a thing that if you kill all the infantry of your opponents, like, what can they do? Then they have to start using their vehicles to hit at your infantry, and then you smack them back with your vehicles, and you pretty much win, kind of thing. And so that's the thing with Adder or those +1s that Jake doesn't get. Like, what's nice about Jake is the extra firepower. He's almost like a better Grim perhaps in that kind of matchup, where he's the one that has better firepower with a power with a super.
Yeah.
He does get the extra movement on vehicles, but the infantry are really strong. Like a block rock infantry will destroy another infantry, right? And a copter as well. They don't get the extra movement, but they will wreck a tank or a copter. So it's more, I think it's more that, like, you got the movement, the guy, and then you got the firepower guy with a little bit of movement in the vehicles, in the land vehicles. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Sounds good. So we won't be covering Sammy's COP, but we have another one I wanted to talk about, which is Olaf's COP, Blizzard. I was very curious you guys' perspective on this one. 3, 2, 1. I'm going underrated. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wait, so-
except for Advanced Warrior.
And
the overrated.
So for you were overrated as well, or
No,
He's
no, no.
underrated.
he was underrated? Okay,
Throwing the other one out.
you're
This is
the other
over.
one out. Yeah.
Oh no.
Alright.
I definitely like don't have the strongest argument. I would admit, but I just maybe it's just like talking from an emotional standpoint. It's like I almost don't want to miss out on the +2 damage. It's not like just like we were talking about like with Drake and like with Drake with like how you're not just gonna sit there after you use your power. I just think the snow just stacking on top of the damage is what makes the superpower really crazy. So I just think the snow itself. I feel like if you're gonna use the snow, I would imagine I would use it and then I would try to like move in so they don't have a really good counterattack, especially with their like reinforcing units that may be like a couple tiles away. But if you're moving in, you're fighting an army, I feel like the snow might not just be enough for them to like lessen or like give them a less dynamic counterattack. But I'm willing to hear what everyone else has to say.
Yeah.
Wants to go.
Does anyone want to take the lead? I have a few points, but they're pretty general. Yeah, like
I have a very. Oh, sorry, go for it.
All right. So this is another one that is, I think, made easier because the consensus view of Blizzard is so low, and that most people just assume that Olaf only has a superpower and you should basically never use the CO power. But nonetheless, we saw Blizzard use to sensational effect very recently in the Smacky Cup 3 or 4, I think. I forget which one. I think it was 3.
4. Three.
Rip versus Jacqueline, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one.
In a move that, frankly, I think is maybe I'm piling on too much, but I think it's probably one of the best individual moves ever made in Advanced Wars by Web, in terms of just like the quality and kind of memorable moves and stakes. Like it was I think it's something that kind of sticks with me. And if there's, a utilization of that power that can basically swing a game so drastically. Now, obviously, it's very situational, and I think the fact that we're playing tournaments with day limits adds a case where it would be good. Where if there weren't a day limit, it probably wouldn't be good. But nonetheless, it's there, and I don't think the snow is bad. I think it's just that the superpower is so strong that it makes the situations where you'd only want the snow to be very, very limited.
Yeah, for me, it's always like a total value thing when I'm in my matches. Like, obviously, getting the global damage and the snow at the same time is just so unbelievably strong. It's like why Olaf is like the only reason why he's in tier 2 in standard. But I feel like when you go for only your superpower, your opponent is going to be like anticipating the snow and is going to make sure his units are covering each other at a more limited range. He's going to make sure his battle copters are not, alone by themselves. They can get picked off easier, and they're just going to be playing against mainly the global damage. But I think similar to my argument for Kindle, by popping the Blizzard and by having that in your arsenal, you're giving yourself so much more options because people don't play against the Blizzard. They will oftentimes are not covering their units properly, are putting their battlecopters in bad spots, are not going to be able to interrupt a very important comm tower or city flip for day limit considerations like in tournaments. So I just think there's a lot of very strong use cases where you can actually get about the same value that you would get out of the 2 global damage just by picking off units and getting in good position with just the CO power. And then obviously you're building up to your next, Winter Fury faster, right? If you're just going to pop 2 back to back.
Yeah, so go on.
No, you go.
All right, I got 2 anecdotal examples. One of them Elagatua already touched on. Where you use it for flipping a lot of properties. And you cannot interrupt certain things. Maybe there's an HQ cap. Maybe you cap 3 properties at the same time where the opponent can't stop them. And I usually think of using Blizzard not when I'm close to my superpower and like using it early. I'm like surprised, like I'm at 1 or 2 stars and I surprise them with a Blizzard. Another time I've seen it used effectively was in a tournament setting. I think it was a Mariner Cup 3 or 2, Lord Clefairy versus Toulouse near the finals. It was Max versus Olaf. It's similar to using Rachel Lucky last before Andy using his superpower. Toulouse used his CO power before Max was going to obviously use his CO power. So he used his Blizzard, made Max sit on his power a little bit longer. Then Max used his superpower the turn after, and then he got a full Winter Fury from all the damage. So you can use it to delay an attack. You also get, don't forget, you get 10-10. You can start clearing tanks off cities or infantry. You can start clearing infantry off cities as well. Restricted movement. But in most scenarios I've seen it used effectively is for capping purposes. You can flip. I would use it if I could flip at least 2 properties. Maybe a comm tower too. Yeah. Then I would consider using a Blizzard to catch them off guard. But if you have like 6 stars, your opponent's going to be prepared for a Winter Fury at least. So usually you want that element of surprise early on in the game perhaps. Most often versus Max, because versus Eagle, I wouldn't do that because they just want to stall out anyway. But versus Max, I could see it being used effectively, maybe versus Kindle, but then she can Urban Blight your caps, so that's probably not going to work out either. So most times I usually see it versus Max, or I guess new tier 2, like Elagatua said, versus Von Bolt in that one matchup was very effective with the day limit. So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with a lot of that. I think it's more, you can see having more effectiveness against heals like Max. And I think the best moment is probably in like the early game when there's very few vehicles, like the first 3 or 4 vehicles that are out on the field. You have day 8, maybe day 10, and you have like a single copter covering this one tank you have in the front or something. You're like very low on that count. And a surprise snow will make it that you can go for a few first strikes and attacks, and they can't counter back. And it's a small gain, but it can really pile up later because you prevent Max from having any +1. Like the copters, a Max force through the snow gain no extra movement, right? It's 3. They need you have to use the super. Something similar with tanks in general. And it's just like you get almost like a free turn with just 3 stars. And if you can get ahead so early on against an aggressive CO like that, and add like what Deejus said about that match with Talos and Lord Clefairy, where you get hit back later and then you just use Winter Fury. It's just those early gains can really add a lot. But I think it's more when there's lower unit count or lower vehicle count, like less coverage in general, and you can hit them with that. Because if there's a lot of units, then it might be a little bit trickier. I saw it. I had done this video. It was in high funds, which is surprising because usually you would just count with Winter Fury in high funds, where Daniel Moreno used the snow like 2 or 3 times in a row. So he had like 2-3 turns of snow, and it was just brutal. Like there's no counterattacks, and it was just small gains, like getting one capture or getting a few vehicles down with no response back. So you were just like piling up unit value. And it just, it adds up in the long run, I think.
Was that the Quack Up game, the Olaf versus Hachi Eagle replay?
I haven't covered that one yet.
Yeah,
but I have
someone
it
covered that.
List, yeah. But no, it was a High Funds Global League, I think.
Okay.
Mixed base.
Although I think I probably have the funniest opinion here, that like Olaf is probably has the funniest meme play style of all time, which is Brawl Off. The goal of Brawl Off is just to get into as many fights as possible and spam that CO power over and over and over, kind of like a Grim versus Adder matchup. So like the way it works is like it is first of all barely, second of all.
Yeah.
So second of all, like for some reason, like a lot of like the T2 COs like he faces up against like really care about their movement. Like Eagle, Brawl Off is very, very good against Eagle just because it's like you have to constantly keep that pressure up. Max, like those powers, whatever, that give you extra movement. Like, well, I mean, now they're moving in the snow. It's like so like it's popularized by Ham Slamish. Like he got to 1K ELO basically just every time there's T2 in live play specifically, pick Brawl Off
And just go
just
crazy.
spam that CO power and just like go nuts, because it's just it's a hilarious chaotic mess of just I throw units into other units.
How well does it do in the mirror?
Yeah, a mirror brawl up. Actually, I was gonna say the one time this is so embarrassing. So I was playing Poland in Olaf versus Olaf, and I had this amazing turn that I found where I picked off like 2 of his battle copters and a tank and an artillery, I think, and I was like, it's beautiful. He can't counterattack me. I did the whole turn, ended turn, and I was like, he's also playing Olaf. And then I was like, unaffected by snow. This is not good at all. And I just basically instantly lost on the spot. So do not pop Blizzard when you are facing Olaf. It's just 10-10. Yeah, don't do that.
Offer a tie.
Yeah, I just accepted my defeat.
Unless it's a tournament.
Yeah,
ELO.
yeah. This was when I was lower elo. I don't know how we got matched up, but I only lost like 3 elo or something off it. I was like, I don't really care. But yeah, and it wasn't a mistake. I just literally made the whole turn thinking like Olaf is affected by snow, and then I played over his thing and I was like, Olaf not affected by snow, and I was like, yeah.
I would classify that as a mistake.
Yeah. I guess not
counts.
not a misclick, just a bad play.
It's the thought that counts.
Yeah. All right. Next on the docket here. So I think we should go into some of the fog stuff while we are kind of in the same space. So we'll go with, sticking with the CO theme, we'll go with Eagle and fog. I'm very curious. As someone who, self said, I do not pick Eagle a lot. I think I've seen how strong Jay Topham plays them and stuff like high funds and standard and stuff like that. But I'm very curious to see Eagle and fog, because I think using the lightning strike is going to be challenging. 3, 2, 1. I'm in the middle.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I keep forgetting what your emotes are.
Okay.
Yeah,
Overrated.
Okay, overrated. Overrated is the exclamation.
Overrated has like
the exclamation marks. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Or we can look at your mouth and like it's
Yeah.
like overrated.
Overrated.
Yeah. Does anyone want to take a lead on this one? I think this one's a little
What was the
tricky.
split? I didn't even capture it.
I was in the middle.
I was in the middle as well, and then I think we had 2 underrated and 2 overrated. Was that right?
I think we had 3 underrated. And
I was underrated.
I'm by myself.
do we need to do it again? Do we need to do it again? Like just
Who was the only overrated? Was it you, Elagatua?
I think it might have been
me.
a Legatua.
You go then.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
he's the only one.
Start with the Legatua.
Oh man, I
Yes.
see that. He's about to cook us. Watch
Yeah,
it.
let him start then. Let the
He's
minority
about
start.
to convert us all.
Do you want me to go first, or do you want to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the minority
Set
should
it up
start.
so I can knock him down.
Yeah, start it off first.
I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this.
All right, I can go first. So, Eagle's a little weird because we have new tier 2 now, and so I think that definitely affects what I would say. I think if it weren't for new tier 2, I would say Eagle was underrated.
So
Now
who are the
I've seen
CEOs?
some Eagle play
Who are the CEOs in tier 2?
with
just so
new
people
tier
don't
2
know?
that I
Yeah.
think is
Von Bolt's allowed and Javier, which basically new to him.
right. It makes
Talk about that.
Eagle a lot worse because previously you're picking Eagle as basically like an Olaf counter, and so your idea is you want to stall until you can basically build up as big of an army as possible, ideally before like the second Olaf superpower, and then just like wipe everything and win. The problem is that now oftentimes you're not picking Eagle into Olaf, you're picking Eagle into Von Bolt. And Von Bolt has a lot of better answers for the lightning strike than Von Bolt, or than Olaf does rather. Obviously, as Eagle, you're playing for a longer time, down 10-10 in the early game, because you have to wait for lightning strike to fill up to get any value out of that. But also, even when you have lightning strike available to you, Von Bolt can kind of hide on the cities, and if you stick enough stuff in forests and in cities, I do find that the math doesn't quite work out in favor of lightning strike being able to really cripple Von Bolt really badly. And additionally, Von Bolt has answers to stalling as well, because if you're stalling, then you're building up a lot of net worth on the map, and so it's going to make things much more difficult to avoid the Von Bolt superpower, because you tend to be clumped as soon as you pop your lightning strike. Now you are generally going to get lightning strike first before Ex Machina, but oftentimes with lightning strike you end up overextending too, because you have all this movement, and so you end up pretty deep into your opponent's territory. And if you get Ex Machina and it's with where your death ball is, then you're going to have units stuck on the other side of the map, and they're probably going to get mopped up. So I think that people are probably picking Eagle more than they should. And if it weren't for Von Bolt, then I would probably agree with everybody else.
All right, I'll respond first. I actually have to go in like 4 minutes. So I would say new tier 4 or tier 2, I 100% agree. I mean, it's just a terrible matchup, Eagle versus Von Bolt, for all the reasons you mentioned. Like, you say rock, paper, scissors, that's worse than a rock, paper, scissors. That's just, it's almost, I don't want to say unwinnable, but at an equal skill level, it's pretty much unwinnable, I would say, unless it's some extraneous circumstances, 2 airports perhaps, or I don't know. Especially if a comp tower is contested, you're game over, basically. I will say, I don't think Eagle gets that very much love in the other aspects of Tier 2. I haven't really seen as much new Tier 2 recently. Maybe it's because I've been focusing more on live than in the Global League, so I haven't really gotten new Tier 2 very frequently. But first, Olafs get, like Andy versus Rick, they get a little cocky. And they think, oh, I'm Olaf and Fog, I have a 60% win rate, I'm going to win, haha. And then you can just play around them, like Elagatua alludes to in another video of his. You want to just, stall as much as possible. Sometimes they're grateful to stall. They're like, oh, I'll stall too. We're going to win. Like, they don't realize that Eagle is a better stall CO than Olaf is.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, you're going to just sit there, and then you might even get the superpower first. But I rarely see Eagle these days in Fog. And for that reason, I think the baseline is incredibly low. From my experience, the only people I see playing is Rip. And, maybe that also gives him a little overrated because people are like, wow, he's so good. Because, one of the best players is playing him. So there might be a little aspect there. But I do find that he's better than his usage stats indicate on the majority of maps. If there's new tier 2, forget it. But other than that, I think Eagle definitely has more play than he's been given. I wouldn't pick him most of the time. Usually it'd be Olaf, and then after that, probably Max. I've been using Max a lot more recently than even Olaf. I think needs a little more love in Fog, personally. So Eagle's probably my third pick, but still then, like, I would use him. More than Kindle.
Is it just
Sometimes
Von
people
Bolt
go,
in new tier 2? Or like what's the new tier 2? Is it just Von Bolt or
Add Von Bolt and Javier. They didn't allow Sasha because I just completely, Eagle and...
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
So
done.
Von Bolt and Javier in...
Yeah, that's it. No Hawk, no Sasha.
Okay.
I'm very curious what your guys' thoughts are, because I think this is a differentiator between high elo and low elo of like how easy it is to plan out your lightning strike in fog. Because like I think in low I think he's very like not often picked at all in low elo because people are scared to actually use the lightning strike to its maximum capability, or like they don't think they can because they just can't see the board. So like how are you guys feeling about that, especially some of the higher elo players for playing?
I want to make a quick point on that note. So the difference between low ELO Eagle players and high ELO Eagle players is that low ELO Eagle players have trouble planning out the lightning strike, but high ELO Eagle players are focused on planning up all the turns leading up to the lightning strike. And so your lightning strike is 100% going to be as effective as the planning and the preparation that you've done to get the board in the state where it can be devastating. And then it's just unleashing all the work you've done up to that point. It's not really a matter of having just like really good planning in that specific turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got to roll, by the way. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for stopping by.
Yeah, another one.
By the way, hey,
That's
Jay,
a person
hey,
with
Jay.
the memory of a
Hey.
goldfish.
Yeah. Hey JJ.
I think Eagle, I mean, it depends who you ask. I feel like Eagle, certain people love Eagle, so they might be overrating Eagle. But I feel like, I said underrated because he's like underpicked, I feel like. I feel like Eagle's not given the chance enough of the times. But this can apply to like multiple COs. It's very common for people to just go for a safe pick. They just pick the CO that most people are playing with, or is most common to be used on this certain type of mode and map, like say, adder on standard, especially 2-base, stuff like that. So I feel like Eagle is a tricky CO to use. It's very hard to use him. You're facing against COs like Max that has extra stats, has extra movement and more stats with cheaper power. So you're getting bullied by this dude until you get your 9-bar, super, and you might be dead by then, So it's scary to use Eagle. And then you have Olaf that has freaking, global damage, and then it's like, oh, you're lightning striking in the snow with like less HP. So it's like very daunting to use Eagle, and that's why I feel like he's not used very often. And I would encourage people to try him a bit more, because you'd be surprised of the stuff you can achieve with him, even being under on income and under on army and stuff. The lightning strike will definitely scare people. Like they'll start, get all scared and they'll start pulling back, and because it can become a nightmare in both standard and fog. Like, lights on, lights off, it doesn't really matter. It's scary on both fronts, and it's hard to understand the stuff that you can do with Eagle until you play with him and you play against him. So I think it's very useful to give him another chance. And man, it's the most there's no other power that gives more satisfaction than using a lightning strike that just wins the game.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. I guess I'll go next.
Yeah,
You?
good. Yeah.
All right, so me?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So okay. So this is once again like the low ELO perspective. Like in Fog, it's really funny because people forget like what units the opponent builds like under a certain threshold. Like you don't keep track of units. You just kind of like move forward and get surprised by the opponent all the time, and just kind of try to work around that. So like once that lightning strike hits, like the goal of low ELO Eagle is to keep as many vehicles alive as possible. You send in your recon, you see what they got, and then you just like send in your swarm of bees to try to deal with whatever they got, and hopefully Like, hopefully your swarm of bees is better than their swarm of bees, and you win the game that way. So it's a very kind of it's a very blind, like blind. You send in your tracer bullet first, but before like a kind of going ham.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely need those recons for a better lightning strike.
Absolutely, yeah. I say that I'm in the middle because I can definitely see both sides. I have been on both ends of winning and of like playing as Eagle and playing against Eagle. I remember there was a fog match I was just playing, and I just kept kept applying pressure. I didn't like stall or anything because I know that you don't want to stall as Eagle. I think one of you guys mentioned it that they're stalling as Eagle and then the Olaf is going to stall. You don't want to stall against Eagle even as Olaf. I feel like he would be in the middle between Max and Olaf, with Max being the most aggressive and Olaf being the most Eagle being the most stally. I'd say you could stall as Olaf against Max, but you don't want to stall against Eagle. So that's just I would say is like what is kind of like benefits Eagle there is like people kind of underestimate him. However, and I do feel like the ceiling for Lightning Strike is definitely high. It's just sometimes that Winter Fury could get you at the wrong time, and if the Olaf player just knows to just keep pushing and pushing against you, eventually you're just gonna fizzle out, and your Lightning Strike may not be anywhere useful. But yeah, that's why I'm kind of in the middle, because I see both sides.
I guess the interesting discussion point on it is, just on a normal map, don't go to specifics there, but like, would you rather be playing tier 2 Eagle in standard or fog in the vast majority of cases? And I think for most people, and myself included, it would be standard. Even like I say, you can take Von Bolt out of tier 2. So just like ignore Von Bolt, Javier. Would you rather be playing Eagle in standard or fog? And I think most people, or at least myself, I would say standard. Partially because planning Lightning Strike, but also partially because I feel like other COs, like especially Olaf, I think Olaf is a lot stronger in fog, just because his powers don't get really affected by it at all. So you're just playing in kind of a worse, in an Eagle Olaf matchup, you're just kind of playing in a worse environment than you would be in standard. I don't know, what are y'all's perspective on that?
You say that the matchup favors Olaf in an Olaf versus Eagle in standard than in fog? Or I
would rather play Olaf as Olaf versus Eagle in fog. I think it's harder for Eagle in fog than it is for Eagle in standard. That's my baseline.
Interesting.
I think it also comes down to like what are people's comfortable play styles, because I know there's people that are comfortable with being aggressive, and then there's people who would rather sit back and just kind of play this war of attrition.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know anything about standard, but if you take out Von Bolt, I think the main impediment to people playing Eagle is that the way to play Eagle effectively is not very intuitive. And everybody starts off Advance Wars being able to run tanks to the center of the map and press their superpower. And that's going to get you a long way as Olaf. But for Eagle, you have to do things like retreat and stall and strategize and shift. More advanced strategies, more advanced tactics. And you have to really do things with purpose. And so that requires a higher level of mastery, where Olaf, even at like 1500, 1600, you're kind of just running your tanks to the middle and pressing superpower. So I think that's why you don't see a lot of Eagle, is because there's just not a lot of players with that level of mastery to actually pull it off, when you could just be doing the same stuff as Olaf and getting wins.
Mm. Yeah. Like what I mentioned earlier, it's like the potential ceiling for an Eagle is really high. It's just the amount of effort that has to go into it to unlock that potential.
Yeah, it's also very map dependent, right? I mean, the higher the income, I would definitely favor more Eagle, but it also depends on how many contested properties there really are. I think the map quota IOTA was like a very clear showing that although income was pretty high, there's so much contested stuff, and the more contested stuff means the more you're gonna be fighting. Plus, having 2 com towers, that is just more benefiting the playstyle of Olaf. And he'll if there's so much contested, then he'll have a bigger edge after just fighting, and then Eagle just can never catch up. But in other maps, maybe it doesn't have to have the highest of income, but if there's less contested stuff, it's easier to stall and like be behind the property, maybe 2, but then you have to prep RDs. You know, you kind of do that kind of play of slow defending and pushing and maybe all-inning on one side to force reactions. You have to do that kind of thing that Elagatua was saying, like more strategy oriented and not so brain dead brawling like Olaf. And that's where Eagle can really shine, because once that charge is like halfway for Eagle, then it's like all the alarms start ringing. You know, it doesn't matter if you're Olaf, like whatever, like you're gonna start seeing Olaf like sacrificing stuff just to like get that brawl going and get a squeeze a Winter Fury out before you get the lightning strike. And before you know it, you know, maybe they'll mess up and you're able to sacrifice something to get the lightning strike, and Olaf is just dead. Also, anti-airs of Eagle are amazing. Like I think they're totally underrated, because you can one hit KO the line of infantry with the anti-airs, and then you open the line for just destruction overall with all the rest of your units, and then they get to kill Coptus on the lightning strike test. So they're amazing.
Yeah, I feel like no matter what, as soon as you have an Eagle in a game, it's just both players are like, okay, I need to spend way more effort in analyzing this game, whether you're playing Eagle or facing him, because that lightning strike is just so deadly.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hello everyone, Editor MansaMusa here. Thank you so much for watching the first part of this discussion between myself and some of my favorite Advanced Wars by Web content creators on all things Advanced Wars by Web, what is overrated and what is underrated. Initially this was actually just going to be a 1-part video, but to be honest it's taken me a while to edit, so I wanted to split it up here at this mark, because it's a good transition between the first half of our conversation, which was mainly focused on COs and their powers, to the second half of our conversation, which was mainly focused on maps, strategies, and even some things about the Global League itself. So that is what you have to look forward to here in part 2. It is my goal to get that out within the next week or so. Hopefully if I can edit that well, I can achieve that goal. But until then, thank you so much for watching everybody. My name is MansaMusa, and remember, being overrated is just a state of mind. Bye guys.